Hey, I'm back from my last video where I was going to head in the library, and then I realized it's 12:09, which means that the community center where I got to check my mail are on lunch, so the door will be locked. So I don't have to unpack my laptop, set everything up, and then pack it up again within 20-30 minutes or something. I will wait out here, finish my Rise hot cocoa coffee. It's a mix of my own. And that way I can go in there get in there by 1 when they're going to be open, get my mail. Then I can go sit down at the library. So that'll give me about 4 hours of being able to edit and upload videos. I've got a lot to do. I've been doing, so now that I've been getting more comfortable on the camera, I've been making more of a habit to put it up and record it on the dash. That's what works the best for me right now, because I don't have to hold the camera. I'm not thinking about the camera as much, even though I know it's there and I'm talking. It's different when I'm holding it. You know, it's like I haven't gotten used to that yet. Like I did that the other day when I was coming out of the library and held it and was walking around showing me leaving the library and heading out to my camper and stuff. That was like a new camera movement angle thing for me or something. I'll get better as I go, you know. Before you know it, I might be like a magician on this YouTube channel or Rumble channel or whatever. I guess I shouldn't call it a YouTube channel because it's on more than one platform. So, and eventually maybe I'll put it on more platforms, but I got too much going on to be thinking about all these other platforms and stuff. I haven't even learned all of how Rumble works. I'm still learning how the stuff on YouTube, but I'm glad I'm doing it. You know, I used to think, oh well, I got to learn this, I got to learn that. I can't start yet. Well, I passed the window of opportunity for monetizing right away, because when I first started looking at YouTube, it's almost 7 years ago, I kept waiting because I wanted to learn more and be ready and stuff like that. But back then, you could monetize right away. That was before they set rules for having so many subscribers and so many watch hours and stuff. And then, of course, those people, because they were already monetized right away, were grandfathered in, you know. I think that's how that went. So if I would have at least just started then, taken that leap and just started and not worried about everything being perfect and stuff, I could have done that. But, you know, I was like, when you're new to stuff and you don't know, you're like, oh, I gotta learn it more. I gotta do it right. I gotta learn how to edit a video. I gotta make it professional. I gotta make it look right. And finally, eventually, I ended up just with another channel. I just ended up, after watching so many videos and people saying, just do it, just start. You'll learn as you go. You know, don't worry about what it's like. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll grow and learn as you're doing it. You know, so when I started doing it and started doing pretty good, you know, getting it going. Nothing huge, you know. Right now it's at like 800 subscribers, the other channel, but they're right, you know. Just do it. Start learn it as you go, you know. Instead of worrying and putting everything off. Right? When you worry, you're worrying about something you don't even know exists. You know, it's a what if, you know. We create. I'm guilty of it still. You know, I'm still guilty of it. We create problems in our minds that don't exist with worry. And we worry about all the different things that could happen that scare us or bother us. Well, we're beating ourselves up and wasting energy and creating our own problems. You know, because you don't know. For all you know, it could turn out better than you think. You know, but because you didn't try, you get yourself all worried and didn't do it. That's part of why I'm in this new phase that I'm going through. It's been scary, but something told me, nope. Head up here. I feel more at home up this way. And I could have got other jobs back down south. I know I could have. But something told me no, up here. You know, this is your life, Darren. You know, if this is what you feel going up this way, you go up this way. You know, and at least make a go at it. Because if you don't at least make a go at it, if I wasn't up here going through all these struggles I'm going through right now, who knows how my life would have went differently. And I'd be maybe working a job that I really didn't want to work in, and my whole life could end up different. And I don't want to end up on my deathbed, unless, sometimes some people just go out with a bang, and it's over. But I don't want to be, if I do live longer and die of old age, or just because my body lives its existence, I don't want to be laying there thinking, God, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that. If I went to started doing RV van life stuff, that's something I would have regretted. I would have been like, God, I wish I would have done that. I really wanted to try it. And I kept putting it off, but life kind of forced me into it, so I believe there's a reason for stuff, I'm glad that I prepared. I think there's a reason for that too. I think God had his place at work in it or whatever, because that has helped me tremendously. All the preparing I did, wanting to get into it. Then when life said, guess what? You're going to do it now. Put me out the door and say, here you go. Try it. So, but it's definitely been worth it, even with the hard days. And my days have been getting really, really hard. But it's going to get better. I know it is. I can feel it. I hope it's really soon. If my unemployment goes through, that'll help so much. I mean, I'm still going to be hunting for work or the right job or whatever, and keep doing these videos. And it's my plan right now, anyway. Hopefully it all works out. I started thinking about what if my unemployment doesn't go through, because I've been fighting it so many times now. This is like the fourth round with it, and that's the last round. This is it. There's no more now. So either this decision goes through yes, or it's not happening. And I just pray that it does go through, because I have not got hired yet, and I've got lots of applications out there, and have had lots of very good interviews. And I haven't been hired. So, talking to a pastor the other day, he asked me what I thought why that was. I said, I don't know. I said, in the beginning I started thinking that maybe it was my age or something. I said, because I got a strong work ethic, I got a decent work history, and I'm really smart. He said, I know you're really smart. I said, so it don't make sense to me. I said, but I don't know what he thought of it, but I said, like I've been talking about, I said, I think it might be God. God doesn't. I feel it that He doesn't want me to work for. I don't understand it fully, but He don't want me to work for like I feel like it's like not like a corporate thing and making some company rich or that. But I've got to have more meaning and purpose for the Lord in it, And so that's why I started this channel, of course, because I feel like I'm supposed to be doing that. God wants me to share my faith with people. And the best way I know how to do that right now, I do it with people I meet, but the best way I know how to do it for God, for what I feel like He's calling me to do, is doing these videos, starting this channel and stuff. Because it shares me. It was a scary risk thinking about going into it, because once it's on the internet, it's there forever. And I'm sure there'll be tons of people out there eventually, if this thing grows, that'll judge me or maybe say not nice things about me, But so be it, I'm just going to be me, and hopefully that don't happen. It's been hard through my life when people didn't like me, or even growing up as a kid when people wanted to try to pick or bully or something like that, or be mean. I didn't like that, because I like people liking me, and I like being good to all people. So it's hard to deal with sometimes. But now, I've grown. I'm not a little boy anymore. I'm a man. And I handle it better. It's still, depending on what somebody says or does, it can still affect you, as much as you let it affect you. So I'm putting myself in a vulnerable position and hoping that, it's mainly all good stuff that comes out of this. I'm a human. I ain't perfect. I like to think I'm kind of close. No. I'm not, though. But I am a good man. I really am. I like joking around and stuff too. But hopefully, doing it this way, hopefully that's going to really help some people out, you know. Just sharing who I am. You know. I hope so. It's snowing. I don't know if it's showing up in the camera. I film in 1080p. So, because I never did, since I started my other channel too, I never did 4K and stuff. I figured 1080p was enough. And I grew up, oh, I'm sounding old. I grew up watching TV without a remote. I was the remote. My dad would be like, change that to channel 5 or something, you know. I'd go, get up, go to the TV. Tuk, 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 tuk. And he'd look for me, so hold on. See what's on, you know, because if you didn't have a TV guide, or if you didn't get the paper at the TV guide yet, because you used to have newspapers. I don't know if them still exist anymore. They do, but and in the paper there'd be a TV guide, you know. They'll tell you what's on TV, and you yeah. And so if Dad didn't have the TV guide, or if the paper didn't come yet, well, and yeah, I might have to stand at the TV a little longer. Tunk, tunk. Okay, try 11, you know, or whatever. Tunk, tunk, tunk. Oh, that's right, it's 11. Reach up to the tinfoil that's on the antenna there and bend it to the right a little. There you go. See how the picture's not as fuzzy now? You know, all learning experiences. Tinfoil on the antennas. How many of y'all know that story or know of it? Yeah, so it was tube TVs, and I experienced black and white TV for a long time. You know, we did have it was always black and white TV at my grandpa's house. He was still old school. He was pretty tight with his money and stuff. And he didn't splurge on no color TVs. Now, my mom, even though we had a rough life and were on welfare and food stamps and stuff as a kid growing up, she worked at like different thrift stores or appliance stores, sometimes scrubbing and cleaning appliances, you know, to have used ones so they could be resold. And God, it's amazing. I remember having to go to work with her sometimes when I didn't have school or something. And my mom would work so hard. She, whew. I remember seeing like a refrigerator one time. It was just so gross and dirty and moldy, and you know, somebody probably moved out of their apartment and left a bunch of crap in it, or maybe they got evicted or something. I don't know. But as a kid, I just looked at it like, ugh. How can that even be sold? You know, shouldn't that be in the garbage truck? You know, and my mom would scrub them things up. They would look almost like brand spanking new again. Some of them, you know, and inside and out. She would pull out every little grate, every nook and cranny, and she'd use like an old toothbrush or something to get in the little corners and everything. And I really learned how to clean stuff from my mom. And she'd take something that was old to make it look brand new, and she did that throughout the rest of her life. You know, she'd thrift store shop with that, and whether we'd get patio furniture or whatever and scrub it up clean, respray it with paint, or get some hand paints and repaint the flowers and stuff and vines by hand and stuff to give it a whole new detailed look instead of just flat black for the whole thing or something. Yeah, and people would see me like, wow, where did you get that at? You know, we got it at the thrift store for $7, you know. So, yeah, that's a cool memory. I haven't thought about that in a long time now. That memory of my mom cleaning appliances, I think I was like 4 years old then, because that was preschool time, before kindergarten. And might even been a little before that, maybe, because I remember they wouldn't let me in preschool because my birthday was like a day too late or something for the changeover. So because of the date, I didn't qualify to be let into school with the class because I wasn't old enough, until the following year. You know, and I missed that slot by a couple days. So my mom is a single mom. When I look at it now, I didn't think about it then. I'm just a little kid, and my mom's raising me. But my mom, probably thinking, well, if he gets if I get him into preschool, that's good for him, and that would free up her time, and she could go work and try to make some money to raise us better, give us a better life. And wow. It's kind of wild. Just now, I'm realizing some things about my mom I never really thought about at a certain level. Whew. And with everything I got going on in the world, I guess that kind of makes me a little more emotional. Maybe I'm going through a midlife crisis. That's it. Oh my, I'm a goofball. But yeah, that got me emotional there thinking about that. Just the thinking about my mom trying to raise us on her own, And my dad, he wasn't around in the beginning of those times. My mom divorced him because he's an alcoholic, and he'd get not nice when he'd get drinking too much, So I wasn't happy with my dad as I got older because he wasn't around in my life as much. He was periodically here and there, but later in life I got to know him because my mom told me I should take time to get to know my father because he might not be here someday. And I was mad. I was like, well, why should I do that? I heard he's got liver spots from drinking. I'll get to know him and love him, and then he's going to die. He ain't been around. Why should I get to know him now? Because I was young and not understanding life more. And it's understandable how I was feeling, but God made some things happen in my life that put me into a hard struggle, very hard struggle. And I thought, well, I needed to be around people just to keep my sanity because I started thinking stupid stuff, feeling suicidal and stuff. And I thought, well, and I was reaching out to people, so I really wasn't because I just needed to keep talking and crying to people about how I was feeling and venting what I was going through. And so I thought, well, good time for me to go be over with my dad, because I felt like I was being a burden on other people in the family. I was trying to rotate it through different aunts and cousins and stuff, because I'd call at 3, 4 in the morning and stuff just because I was so messed up and sad. And I thought, yeah, this is the time. And I'd ride my bike at night because I couldn't sleep. I wasn't eating. And so I rode over to my dad's and showed up at the back door of the house. It used to be my grandpa's house. And he, late, 2, 3 in the morning, Dad was up. And he was shocked. He opened the door like, hey, come on in, He was surprised. Well, from that moment on, I started hanging out with my dad more. And what a wonderful blessing that was. I got to understand my dad. Doesn't justify, the rough stuff him and my mom went through and stuff, but I love my dad. He was a wonderful, great man that was trying to figure out life himself, Like I said, it doesn't justify all his decisions, but I understand it. He was an alcoholic trying to figure out his own life. So he turned to a booze bottle to run from his problems or whatever, And I'm glad I got to understand all that because it helped me. I got to forgive him and understand that, he's just another human being too. And sure, I wish he would have been stronger to be there for me more in my life and stuff, but I still got that and got to know him really well and got to love his sense of humor and his intelligence. I remember as a kid when he'd come over to my grandpa's, sometimes on the weekend we'd build models together and stuff, but they said it was sporadic stuff, he wasn't always there. That's because he'd be out boozing it up or chasing women or something. He did have some skills. And yeah, it was cool getting to know him and stuff. And that's just like I told my mom, my worry was yeah, I got to know him and love him, and he died. He got sick and died. But I'm glad it happened because I got the best closure I could have ever gotten. I got to understand it all. And how he was raised differently. One more good example I should say here and squeeze in real quick is what I learned is like when I was feeling so sad, I remember sitting on the couch next to my dad and wrapped my arms around him, just bawling, crying on his shoulder because I was hurting so bad. And in my heart, I just wanted my dad to hug me and hold me. and tell me, I love you, son, it's going to be okay, or whatever. I wanted that kind of mothering from him or something. I wanted my dad to show me love, that he cared and that it was going to be okay, and stuff. But he just sat there and let me hug onto him and cry. And later on, I got to realize that was such a huge moment. That was hard for him to do, because of the way he was raised. He was raised in a generation where men were tough. They didn't show their feelings. It's probably why he turned to the bottom more, because you were supposed to be a man. You don't cry. You don't let people know you don't have the answers. That's a lot of weight for a person to carry. But I got to see it all. I got to understand it all. And him just sitting there, being there with me, and not leaving me or nothing, and just letting me cry. That first night, that was huge, because he didn't know how. He wasn't raised to be that huggy, lovey guy, It just wasn't who he was raised, the way he was raised. He had a tough upbringing too. And I guess my grandma was quite the boozer, and I've heard stories that even at that point I'd already heard stories about my grandma and stuff, and my grandma and grandpa's lives, and some of the stuff that from drinking and stuff. But as a kid I didn't think about how that affected my dad to come to me, whatever. But at this point I'd put it all together, and I understood it all, and yeah, it was really cool. I'm glad I got to know my father really well, and I love him with all my heart, and he knew it. And we had got to have a really wonderful relationship. And I knew the day he was going to die. I seen him. He was being stubborn, not going to the hospital, and he was not feeling good. He hadn't been feeling good for a couple of days. And he ended up with his stomach ruptured, and he had toxic shock syndrome. So basically his stomach fluids were leaking in, getting into his bloodstream and everything. Had he went to the doctor, a day or two before, he'd probably have lived and might still, I don't know if he'd still be alive today. Could possibly, I don't know. But because he'd have been pretty old. He'd been in his 80s or something, I don't know. But anyway, he'd be about in his 80s or something like that. Anyway, I could math trivial at the moment. But he didn't go, so of course, he ended up dying. But when I was leaving that day, I knew it. I could see it. I could just feel it. And I've had that happen with me with so many people. When I don't know if it's God or what, but I just get like this vision or feeling or something, and I can tell this person. I can almost see, like, sometimes it started with like I knew they were going to die that day or something, And then there's other people I've had that I'm like, yeah, they're going to go soon or something, But I don't share that with people, I could feel it, and it happened. And it's happened a lot of times, And I knew it with my dad, and it was a really good moment because I had to go to work, and I remember looking at my dad, and there was so much communication from my eyes to his eyes. There was so much more communication there than what came out of us verbally. My dad always had a big mustache and stuff. So, like, when I kissed my dad goodbye, you'd feel his mustache kind of poke you, like, whatever. Because I kissed him as a kid. Didn't matter that I was a young adult. I was still going to kiss my dad and tell him I love him, And I did. I kissed him, told him I loved him. I said, Dad, you get better. I said, I don't like seeing you like this, because I could tell he was in so much pain. And just the way we looked at each other, I knew and he knew that was our last moment together. And it was all in the eyes. We didn't speak it, but we knew it. He knew it and I knew it. And got to work that night and told a friend of mine at the time, only to find out all these years later that he wasn't the kind of friend I thought he was. Sometimes I put too much stock in people, but it's still good that I do that. Anyway, I told him that, I said, I don't want this to sound morbid or nothing, but I think my dad's going to die tonight, probably before I'm done working or something, and friend at the time, I think he thought it was different that I was saying that. He didn't. I don't think he thought it was morbid, but he just. And that happened, you know. And so then we were leaving. I had a gold wing. I left work that morning. I had a pager then because cell phones weren't out yet, really. If you had a cell phone, you were really some tycoon, some rich guy. But I had a pager, and if somebody paged you with a 123 with their number, well, that meant kind of urgent, you know, call you. And then if somebody paged you with a 911, because 911 is an emergency call, you know. So if you got a 911, you know it's really, really important. But otherwise, only do a 1 through 3 if it's urgent, or just your number if it's like, hey, just give me a call when you got time. If it's urgent, 1, 2, 3. Like, let's get them out, 1, 2, 3 in baseball. And so that's how I had everybody, if they're going to page me. So I kind of knew the urgency. And from my brother at the time, I got a 911. And I knew when I got a 911, I knew he wouldn't use a 911 unless this was something important. So I pulled over to this gas station, called my brother, and he said, I took Dad to the hospital, and it doesn't sound like he's going to make it. And I just said, okay, I'll see you at the hospital. And I hung up. And I looked at my friend who was riding on the back of my Goldwing with me because we'd left work, and he rode to work with me. And he wasn't far from where he was, probably, I don't know, from where we were at then. I'm going to guess he was like maybe about a mile from where he needed to go. And the hospital was past that. But the thing is I know my dad was taken to the hospital and he probably wasn't going to make it. But just in case, there's that, maybe I get to see him before he goes or something, you know. So I looked at my friend and I said, here's the deal. I'm taking my dad to the hospital. It doesn't sound like he's going to make it. So I said, I can leave you here and I'll come back and get you later or something if you want or something, but I'm just letting you know that if you stay with me, I can't guarantee this motorcycle ride, you know, because I'm going to be doing some driving that is hopefully God guided. And it was. I don't think I've ever driven a motorcycle so fast through downtown St. Paul and everything. So freaking fast. I went over bumps and roads where it went airborne and stuff. Man, I was like Evel Knievel all the way. And when I'd get up to coming up to a red light through the heart of the metropolis of St. Paul, those big buildings in downtown city, I would lean forward as much as I could because I know it's a red light and I ain't stopping. God's gonna get me there. And I would lean forward and I'd start pulling the clutch, getting ready to hit the brakes, you know, and trying to shift my eyes rapid to see what's coming left or right. And if I knew I had a hole big enough, I'd just let the clutch back out and just crack the throttle, you know, and just poof, you know, and then I'd get ready to slow down if I had to. I just judge every intersection like that. But I didn't have to slow down or stop at all, man. I just, every single red light I went through and everything, I mean, I could have got killed, no doubt, but I made it across town probably faster than any squad car ever could have. And got there quick, ran into the hospital, found out where my dad was, you know, and they told me already, you know, I got people at the door that, you know, let me know that he didn't make it, you know, so I knew he was already gone, but I still wanted to see my dad. And so I went in and seen him laying there dead on the table. And I had these cool sunglasses. Now this is going to sound kind of weird, but, you know, it was just something I had to do because I had bonded with my dad in a cool way. And I remember my stepdad telling me, because he had been in Vietnam and he shared a lot of really tough stories with me of stuff he'd been through. And he told me how, you know, you can see a person's soul through their eyes are a window to their soul, and he's right, you know.